Hey guys, how's it going? It is Kyrie here with another Diablo 4 video. And in today's video, I want to talk about this big topic that's potentially a massive issue here in Diablo 4 about how leveling up is actually impeding progress and making you weaker, how the scaling mechanic is actually a terrible problem here in Diablo 4. So I want to break it all down. I want to talk about the problem, how potentially you can feel like you're getting weaker as you're leveling up. Is this something you actually need to worry about? And then also actionable tools on what to do to prevent this or know when it's happening and what you can do to make sure it doesn't happen. And the big part of my argument is going to be, I think scaling in this context is getting a bad rap. I think there is going to be solutions around this, and I don't think you need to worry about your account getting ruined if you know all the tools or at least use all the tools available to you to make your character stronger. Not saying the game's perfect, not saying that this is the best system ever or even a good system potentially, but I think the system in place is not actually going to screw your character over and you're going to need a reroll because you've gotten too weak because you over leveled and you're now 94 and your character was way stronger at 86. I really don't think that's the case. I think they have a good progression system and leveling matters. You're going to get stronger, but please watch this video in its entirety. I really think the full context matters. Normally I'm all for timestamps. I don't know, 2x speed me or something, but to really understand what I'm trying to say, please watch the full thing and then you will understand the point I'm trying to make. And hopefully you can prevent your character from feeling weaker once you've leveled up. So to start with this, let me paint a scenario of someone that I think would actually feel weaker when they level up. And I can totally understand why they would think scaling is the problem. And this is going to be the kind of person that would have this situation. So, for example, a lot of people are going to Champion's Demise here, and they're power leveling up their character. They're using this as the fastest way to level up their character, and that is all they're doing. They're getting into a party of 4 or 3, whatever, and running through Champion's Demise, leveling up as fast as they possibly can. This is where the scaling mechanic can actually be detrimental to them and make them weaker. And I would say, I just want to start off by saying that if there's ever a situation where over leveling or having to worry about when you level is going to prevent your progress, I think that's a massive issue with the game. I think that's terrible for a game. And if you have to stay under leveled or, watch out, gaining experience is bad, that's just horrible game design. But I don't think Diablo 4 has that problem. But what people are doing, and then also I think we can all agree here that power leveling in Champion's Demise is not intended game design for leveling our characters. Yes, it is possible. Yes, they might not actually nerf it, but leveling up in Champion's Demise with 4 people and having the experience shared between all 4 people is not intended. That is not what they were looking for. There's all these different game modes to increase our characters, and this was not what they were going for. So running into a situation where you are now weaker after pushing through this is potentially not the dev's fault and not poor game design if they actually give us solutions to be able to make our character strong again, in my opinion. That's how I look at this. But I do like that they have an option that everyone's going to find the most optimal way to level up their characters. That is just by nature of humans in general, they're going to do this. And so I think when it gets to poor game design, like I'm saying earlier, that if you can't go back and you can't fix it, or there's not a fair pros and cons here, then it becomes the problem. But with this situation, yes, you are leveling as fast as you possibly can, but what you're also doing is you are narrowing down the ways that you can increase power in your character. What you are doing is you have a scaling mechanic with the enemies, and all you are gaining now is Paragon points. That's all you're getting. So then because of that, this is why I think people feel weaker, because every part of this situation relies on each Paragon point. Each Paragon point is a massive difference. Like, look here, 20% physical damage and 10% strength. That is a massive Paragon point. But what if for a couple times in a row, I get like 5 intelligence, 5 dexterity, 5 strength? They just went up another level. I just went up another level, but I only gained garbage when they got a little stronger. So now I'm objectively weaker. Okay. So that's a problem. And I understand why people would feel that this is a problem. Because they're just now weaker in that situation. So I get it. I get that. But I want to talk about, I think that being a problem, that's a very narrow way of looking at it. But we do have so many other solutions to be able to combat this with other ways of increasing power. And the actual in-game stuff in this game doesn't use scaling. So it is not a problem, in my opinion. You can argue if this is poor game design and they chose a wrong direction for how they want to actually present in-game content, or how they want to present normal dungeons, and what normal dungeons should be used for, and what nightmare sigils should be used for. That's a separate argument. But the game doesn't actually make you weaker in this context when you factor in all of the ways to make our character stronger. So let's talk about the first thing, where what are all the ways to make your character stronger that you're missing out on if you're just power leveling through Champion's Demise? So I think the first thing we need to talk about is gear. And I think this is another benefit for Diablo's system, whereas all the gear that I'm getting, or at least the potential that the gear can roll here, is all the same. Starting from level 60, when you start getting ancestral pieces of gear, to level 100, they're all going to roll in roughly this item level power of, the minimum I've seen is this 699 Rage of Harrogath, versus I got like an 808 here, I got an 818 Temerity here. But then if I look at like a hardcore blaster, like I look at Rob's channel and I look at his gear, he also has 750 gear, 700, he has 774. He has the same gear. We have the same potential in gear. So we don't have to worry about like, oh, we're in a situation where the only way to get the good gear is we need to be strong enough to do certain content. No, like I can just power level my character and focus on experience, and I can still get the same gear that Rob is getting, that I'm getting, that everyone's getting. We have the same potential. The issue comes from the RNG aspect, but this is just these type of games in general, that yes, there's going to be variance in the rolls I get. And yes, you can get incredibly unlucky and get a ton of garbage rolls and feel weaker because now you're going through this content. Yes, you've gotten a couple bad Paragon points. Yes, you don't have the optimal subset rolls on here. Yes, you're going to feel weaker in the normal content, but luckily there's other content that doesn't scale with your level, so you can do that, and it happens to be the highest in-game content. But this is going to be one of the biggest, but also most subjective ways to increase power in your character, because it's not going to be something that is objectively measured. It's going to be subjective. You can like argue. I can come here and be like, oh, I have almost 300% critical strike damage. I'm way stronger, but no one's actually going to be able to see an objective number like this. Attack power number is not accurate because it doesn't really know for sure. So that's one of the ways that people are going to be, this is probably the most contentious part of this situation, in my opinion, because it is so subjective on your build, what your build needs, what your opinion on what the build needs, and what your opinion is on where you think you're actually at versus what you actually are at. So this is the most difficult part, in my opinion, because of the subjectivity of each particular role and each particular build and how powerful you are in that situation. But all the other stuff is pretty objective to me. Next way to get stronger is going to just be using materials to upgrade our pieces of gear. And a lot of people that are just blasting through are not actually doing that and realizing that at least the first 3 levels, those materials are actually pretty easy to get. But we're going to need to do other content if we ever want to go to rank 5. And that is going to be the Hell Tides. You need to do Hell Tides. That's another piece of content we'll talk about here in a second to increase our power that people are not getting in that situation where they feel like they're getting outscaled by the scaling mechanic in this game. But if you're doing the other pieces of content, you're the same level, you're going to get strong enough to be able to handle that content. So that's another thing. Then another way to get stronger is going to be through the renown system here. This is a massive way to get power. You can gain so much power here if you just do your renown. And the further you put off getting all the Lilith statues and stuff, I could totally see why you would feel like you're weaker now because you've leveled up, because this is a massive impact on as you level up your Paragon tree. And if you're too low in your main stats, you're not going to be actually hitting those thresholds in your Paragon board. That's another way. So the renown system, and especially the Lilith statues. So like, let's say I go up to here and then I don't have enough strength now because I haven't done all the Lilith statues, hypothetically. You'd be like, okay, I'm getting this point. I'm supposed to be strong, but I'm not actually strong because I'm not getting the bonus thing. I'm only getting 10% damage to two-handed slashing weapons. That's another thing. So the renown system is incredibly important to make your character stronger, so you're not getting outscaled by the scaling mechanic. And then lastly, I want to touch on it really quick, is going to be doing the Hell Tides. And there's not a Hell Tide up, unfortunately, so I can't really show it. But the main reason why you're doing that is because you need the currency here It is in this section. We need to be able to get in the Forgotten Souls, and we need to be able to get the, it is a flower here in the Fiend Rose to be able to upgrade our potion to the final level and to be able to actually upgrade these pieces to the final level. And one other thing that I think not many people are doing is to also be able to re-roll pieces. For example, this one. I have a good roll on the helmet. I have cooldown reduction, great for my build because of my shouts, but there's one part of it I didn't like, so I re-rolled that section. Same thing here on this piece. I really like this. Vulnerable damage, critical strike damage, damage to close enemies, but that last piece, critical strike chance, it was something else. It was something garbage. So I re-rolled that. The only way you can ever do that is if you're doing the Hell Tides, which you're not getting that extra bit of power or that extra bit of chance to increase your rolls if you're just targeting leveling up your character. So all of these things are going to increase your power. So if you're feeling weaker, you can actually do these things and get stronger and not worry about ruining your account. All of this wouldn't matter in my opinion, and all of this would be a really big problem if they didn't do the Nightmare Sigils in this particular way. So these things do not scale. You do not have to worry about scaling ever. If I do a tier 36 Ancestral Nightmare Sigil, I will always face level 90 enemies. I don't have to worry about I'm level 76 and they're going to scale up only 10 levels or whatever. They're always going to be a little stronger than me. Once I hit the level 90, I'm going to be way stronger because of how the scaling system works on our armor. The total armor granted, main thing that matters is reduced physical damage taken from enemies of equal level. So if I am under leveled, I'm taking way more damage. This is going to be the major in-game progression system, and you will always get stronger from leveling. You will never get punished here for leveling. And if the in-game system had a scaling system, that would be a big problem. That would be the biggest problem in Diablo, but it doesn't. So because you can always rely on these levels being the same, and then I'm sure people are going to do a guide or some kind of infographic eventually where they'll take the Nightmare Sigil and make the corresponding enemy level to it. But for example, I do a tier 36. That's going to be a level 90 enemy. I do a tier 50. That's a level 104 enemy, for example. Those are the only two examples I got off the top of my head, but those are examples. And if I am leveling up, I will be able to do these better. And I don't have to worry about the scaling mechanics screwing me over. Then I also get stronger because I'm leveling up my glyphs this way. So I don't have to worry about, I can retroactively go back to these pieces of content that do have the scaling. And now taking the points I already have in my character's Paragon, I'm making that stuff stronger because I'm leveling up my glyphs. So for example, in this situation, I've leveled this up to, I believe, level 12, and I now have 80% bonus to all magic nodes. So this stuff that I've already slotted into now retroactively gets better and retroactively gets stronger. So that's another thing. This is intended progress. This is what the game wants to do, and it gives us that opportunity. And you're not screwed over in the things that really matter for progressing your character, regardless of what level. You're only objectively stronger. Your armor matters way more than my armor does because I'm 76 versus your like 92, 90, whatever. You have more Paragon points. You have more like raw stats in here. All of this stuff. So that leads me to my final thing, where part of the content that does scale is going to be the Hell Tides. Those things scale with you. Okay. But you have a direct path on what you can do to actually prevent this. And like, okay, you're feeling weaker. Okay. You go to the Hell Tides, or you go to the Nightmare Sigils. You go to the Nightmare Sigils, do those. You can figure out whatever the hell Nightmare Sigil you need to do to be strong enough and do that. And not only are you going to be gaining experience, you're going to be gaining gear, you're also going to be gaining and leveling your glyphs to make the previous points of your Paragon stronger, or to make the specific glyph that you want to level stronger for your build. And if that didn't happen, if there wasn't set points there, then yes, we got a problem. But they have solutions there for us to make us stronger. So we're fine. We don't have to worry about it. It's all good. And it's just weird seeing how many people are talking about how they feel weaker because of this. And I think that what they're doing is, yes, they feel weaker, but they're not using all their tools to their advantage to get stronger. That is my main point of this. And that is why for me, if there's other parts, if there's other things you guys want to talk about that you feel, please let me know in the comments, because I'm curious, because I don't want people to feel weaker. I don't want people to worry about leveling. But understanding all these concepts really matters. And then one last thing I want to talk about is going to be respecking, and how that could potentially be an issue because of the scaling mechanic that you can't respec. So you have a couple things to help with that. Yes, you can just sit there on your current build and farm the respec build. And I think a lot of people, they're not going to sit there and not have a single piece of the respec and then want to, what are they going to do? Unequip everything? So what people are going to want to do is probably get a couple pieces of the respec build. Then once they get the vibe of that build, yes, they're going to be weaker. And where do they go? What do they do? Because the scaling mechanic, you have to have everything optimized to be relevant in that situation, or you need to be able to use everything to your advantage, the renown system, the upgrading of the gear system, the sigil system, all these things to level up that character. So if you're trying to respec and you're weaker, or you want to have an idea of how strong you are, what do? Well, you have the nightmare sigil system. That's all set levels. So just do that. Do the nightmare sigils. And yes, you might be a little slower, but you're going to be progressing your glyphs, and you could try a new build. Like me personally, what I'm going to do, I'm currently on the whirlwind build, but I really want to try the Hoda build. I've been seeing that it looks really good. So I'm going to try to get all the pieces together. Maybe it's not as good as my whirlwind build, but what I'm going to end up doing is, firstly, I'm going to see if I can go into Champion's Demise and still mess with that. If the scaling system has screwed me over and I am weaker in that situation, I have nightmare sigils I can go through and have the set level. I'll just go to like a nightmare sigil, I don't know, 24, 20-ish, and then I can farm that. And I'm totally good because that set level is 76, is right near me, or I could find one that's a little lower than me, and it's no big deal. And I'll be fine. I can try it out, farm it out, and I will slowly progress, get the gear that I need, finally get a piece or a roll that I've been missing. I'm stronger. Boom, I do nightmare sigils that are a little stronger. And the nice thing about nightmare sigils is that you've farmed the nightmare sigils through doing the nightmare sigils. So you don't have to worry about it. And then when you get strong enough to where you want to feel like you can do the hell tides, boom, you can do the hell tides again. Then eventually you're going to hit level 100, so you don't even care about the normal dungeons anyway. All you're going to be doing is the nightmare dungeons. You're going to be doing the nightmare dungeons and the sigils, or the sigils and the hell tides. That's all you're going to be doing. Sigils, hell tides. By the end of it, you're not even going to worry about the other dungeons. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think it's being overblown. I think people are not actually using all the tools that they could possibly do, maybe through ignorance, maybe through they haven't experienced it yet because they're still only farming their experience. So curious to hear you guys' thoughts down below in the comment section. And with that, guys, I'm out of here. Peace.